This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
This is the preseason potion is a powerful elixir leader fan radio network.
Are you hungry or are you starving?
And KFAN.com. 2 minutes and 7 seconds past 3 Central Daylight Time. We welcome you to a Monday edition of the Bumper to Bumper program on another in an endless series of extremely moist afternoons here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. My name is Dan Barreiro. I'm the host of the program. Guardsy is the producer. We are not originating from Vikings training camp, as was predicted, as was scheduled. We were told that because of the unpredictable nature of the weather and the possibility that the practice time might be moved up, that it might make more sense to originate the broadcast from St. Louis Park. So that's why we're here. It was a suggestion. I had actually thought the forecast was supposed to get favorable in terms of less rain in the afternoon. But bottom line is we're here. I assume that means we're done with training camp.
That's it.
Right? We're not adding a day later this week?
That's it. We're done.
Oh, we can't add many because it's just Tuesday, Wednesday before we hit the fair. So my apologies to all of, I know there are thousands of you who showed up for practice today hoping to wave to us. And unfortunately, we're not going to be there.
Well, you know what's funny about what you just said there is, and we're not out there today, so I can't confirm, but I heard Rosen multiple times last week say that the joint practices were the last opportunity fans could come out.
Oh.
And so it was just going to be us like it was.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Like week one.
I see.
I think that's true. If Rosen said it, you take it to the bank, right?
If Rosen said it, it's 50-50. Let's be honest.
I mean, on Vikings protocol, he's got a pretty good source, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, it still would have been nice. One last dance, one last ride, but it was not to be. And honestly, the forecast seems like it's going to be fine. But you and I were under duress with Pat Kessler a year ago when we had to move all the equipment, and then the tent was about blowing over, and Kessler was worthless, as you know.
Well, Abbott's very worried about the lightning strike stuff.
Yeah.
Because we were not going to be able to broadcast inside the building if weather got bad. Maybe we didn't want to do what we did a year ago, which was to basically move to the family tent that almost got flooded. Regardless, we'll continue to follow plenty of Vikings stories, controversy, etc. In fact, Peter Bercich is scheduled to join us at 3:30. I make no promises, but Bercich is scheduled for 3:30 today. John Athletic, Monday regular, is scheduled for 5:30 as well.
Bercich said when I texted him, "I'll be in my car. Is that okay?" And all I wrote back was, "As long as you answer, I don't care where you are."
Yeah, I think that's very true. Rose Bowl guy writes, disappointed to hear you guys and not Go for Football Weekly today. Sounds like KFAN has their caps on the jar. Change your best. Dan and JG row the boat. That's from Rose Bowl guy.
You will hear Rose Bowl guy. You can, if you want right now, switch over to the Plus and listen to Grimm and Daryl Thompson and PJ Fleck.
Okay.
However, if you'd like to listen on the Fan, you can later tonight at 7 o'clock.
I see.
So there you go. They are at the Tipsy Steer as we speak.
That makes some sense. We're delighted you chose to join us today as we set up our last 3 studio shows before we hit the Great Minnesota Get-Together. We'll be out there every day. Well, I'm going to be out there every day except the 2 Saturdays. Guardsy will be out there plenty as well. We will start with a power-packed Thursday broadcast. Lots of good stuff coming up, though, before we even get to the Great Minnesota Get-Together, where I hesitate to say it because we've learned over and over that long-range forecasts are really fairly worthless. But the long-range forecast is for much more favorable temperature conditions and I believe CSI conditions. I think the humidity, the corn sweat is supposed to be lagging by the end of the week. That would be wonderful if that indeed turns out to be the case. We've got done as today. We might have the bumper-to-bumper seal of approval today before we're done. We'll have plenty of leftover stuff from Vikings preseason game number 2 as a heavy There was a heavy dose of that on sermons yesterday, but I'm sure even after and before Bercich, there'll be more Vikings to discuss that I can. In fact, it's kind of related to the opening salvo about the preseason potion being a powerful elixir leader. We warn ourselves and people every year about, not taking too much stock, good or bad, into preseason football. And as I've said for many years, as good as that sounds and as sound advice as that is, it's hard, I think, to get mad at people for not sticking to it because why? They put the games on TV. You put something, I've said this before, man, you put something on TV, it's going to take on greater import. No matter how many times during the broadcast you have people saying, now remember, Vikings are going against the New England Patriots ones at the start of this game, and it's the Vikings twos. Remember, the Buffalo Bills played almost nobody that mattered, primetime, national Fox game last night in Chicago against the Bears, who started the game with their ones for much of the first quarter and continued to play almost the entire first half as if they were in some sort of a strange point differential challenge where we have to win by as many points as possible for tiebreaker purposes. And so you can tell people that over and over, but if you put the games on TV, it's still going to be hard to not overreact to what you see. For example, I was watching last night, and after the systematic, authoritative, sustained 94-yard drive the first time the Bears got the ball
Looked
with
good.
Caleb Williams, I said, nobody is going to want to play the new Bears. Nobody. Now, did I completely mean it? No. Did I kind of want to half mean it? Yes. Because, like everybody, I'm looking for a departure from the team I've watched for a number of years, hoping that with the new coach, the new offense was going to bring some change, some urgency, some creativity to what the Bears offense, the stodgy Bears offense, usually does. And so it's hard to get too far with, but who'd Buffalo play? Buffalo had nobody out there. You can come back with, but Buffalo's defense wasn't that good anyway, so maybe they could have done the same thing against the Buffalo first team. You can talk yourself into anything. If you're a what's Brosmer's first name?
Max.
Not Brock. Why did I want it to be Brock Brosmer? I like the alliteration.
Because people are calling him the new Brock Purdy.
That's what it is. That's exactly it. Well, that plays perfectly with what I'm talking about here. If you want to be a Brosmer Brownstone investor, no matter what people tell you about what he's playing against the threes or the fours,
Kevin Seifert,
or the fives, you go, but all I know is when he's out there, all you can ask him to do is to throw against who he's playing against, and he brought him back. He threw a pass over the middle that should have made it a 2-point game with a chance of a 2-point conversion.
Should have been a touchdown.
To send it into overtime, although there is no such thing as overtime in preseason football. So no matter how many times you say it's a cute story, it looks like, I think there's a good reason to believe he's gonna stay with the team. But it's a long way from here to there from people who are already saying, well, if JJ flounders at all, I think keep going with Brock. Brosmer's the guy you got to go to. So it's inescapable. The coverage is endless. I mean, example, on the Vikings. Even though it's preseason, what are we contracted to do? A 2-hour pregame show. 2 hours. Before a meaningless game.
Vikings Football Sunday.
Exactly right.
My favorite music on the station all week.
And then it's Vikings post-game show, right? I don't know how long that goes, but then there's Vikings. Did we do Wine Line last night? Did we do that for the preseason?
We usually do.
I think we just do it shorter.
Yeah.
But we do it.
For the network.
So let's say, what time did that game start? 10. So pregame was 10 a.m., right, on Saturday, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's 10... 3, 5, minimum 5, 6, 7 hours.
7's probably the magic number.
7 hours of coverage of a game that means nothing. You can't tell people none of it matters. Even if on a continuous loop during the broadcast, You have a John Facenda-like, very authoritative voice saying, reminder, none of what you're seeing really is going to matter at all 1 month into the season. It just doesn't work that way if people are going to get invested in it because you got endless coverage. You know, I mentioned last night, I think the Fox game was a national game.
It was. I watched it.
And to that extent, you got the main guy saying, well, remember, Buffalo's not playing anybody. But even they were having a hard time not extracting something positive out of what we saw of the new Ben Johnson offense translated from the Detroit Lions to the Chicago Bears. So we're all prisoners of exactly that, and I think we need to stop telling people it doesn't matter. Not because it does, but because we're frauds. We can't have it both ways, where we have basically continuous coverage of the preseason in one form or another. Hell, we show up to practice a bunch of days. Not just us, but other shows on the station. And, you know, that makes sense. It's good to be on the scene, exclusive perch, you got interviews, whatever. But then, again, we cannot be at all surprised that people, it's too easy for people to jump from point A to point B to point C to say, or even to furrow their brow and start worrying about some things as well. Because this is how ridiculous it was for the Bears. They're up, what was it, 28-0, late first half. They get the ball back with 30 seconds to go, and Ben Johnson's running the offense like we have to get another score. It was insane. And so again, I think the Bears had 380 yards total offense in the first half. The Bears haven't had 380 yards total offense in 6 games through much of the last 5 years. So it's all there for us. We can mock people for overstating it. And yeah, we'll find out that a lot of it's fool's gold to the good and to the bad much of the time. On the other hand, you might learn a tendency. You might get a flash of a young player that you say, maybe the Vikings have a return man now, or at least somebody that this Price kid that they might be able to put into the mix.
Yep.
Right? You can get another hint from the head coach. What he said during his tour de force third quarter. I said yesterday, Guardsy, my only hesitation about losing myself in KOC's eyes for that third quarter, as educational as it was, really was, beyond a year ago when he spoke during a quarter, or was mic'd up, it was kind of distracting us from the fact that we ask him to coach the team, and the team does not look very well coached right now, as he acknowledged.
Yeah, a lot of procedural stuff.
That was my only hesitation. We were sloppy. A lot of things didn't get done, that sort of thing. So I'm going to stop mocking people for getting pretty excited about preseason football. Now, we're about to head to the third game where allegedly nothing happens. But guess what? Guess what? They're still putting the games on.
Friday night.
We will still have a 2-hour pregame show.
We're out at 5 on Friday.
Exactly it. Then there'll be a 3-hour game or 3.5-hour game. And then there'll be a postgame show. And then there'll be probably Wine Line again. Maybe not as long because it's a night game. I'm not sure. But we can't then have continuous coverage of preseason football and then mock the folks who go, I don't know, man. Brosmer looks pretty damn good to me. I don't care who he's playing against. Bears? Well, preseason? Yeah, Buffalo was sitting their ones, but did you see the offensive execution from their QB? Now, if you want to be really critical, you could say, yeah, but Dan, don't you remember a preseason game a year ago for the Bears in which Caleb Williams was being saluted for all the off-schedule plays he made? And people going, my God, he might be ready to walk right into the job. And Dan, how did that work out? Not very well. Although I do have an answer to that as well. Let's get our first break in a little bit late. Peter Bercich, who is going to be fun to talk to today if he actually shows up, because it's clear that Bercich is, who's the head coach for the Patriots?
Mike Vrabel.
Peter Bercich is PO'd at Vrabel. Do you know about this?
I don't.
Oh, it's classic Bercich.
Because of who he played?
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly right. So we're going to get into that with him. We'll get to some other Viking stuff as well with him. And then Johnny Athletic about everything about 5:30. Is a fitful sleep a good sleep or a bad sleep? When somebody says I had a fitful sleep, will you Google that expression?
A fitful sleep refers to a pattern of sleeping characterized by frequent interruptions.
That's it. That's
restlessness and an inability to stay asleep.
Perfect. So
that's my life. Every night.
Last night for me especially was about as fitful as it could get. And I think I know what that was specifically about. I knew that Zelensky was going to be visiting the White House today to meet with the president, and then ultimately I think we got 7 or 8 European leaders are in on this as well. And I was tossing and turning last night wondering, will he wear a suit or just another one of those silly T-shirts? A suit or a T-shirt? And it's usually, when I say T-shirt, I think it's a good one. It's usually black.
Yeah.
But that's it. And he got in trouble. He got called into the principal's office, actually into the Oval Office, last time, right, for what he wore.
Yeah. Double team, too, with JD and Trump.
Imagine my surprise when he gets out of his limousine that pulls up to the White House where the president is there to greet him, and Zelensky walks out in a suit. Now, it was not what would be classified as a traditional American suit, but it was a suit. And I felt all of a sudden, I felt liberated. I felt so much better. All the tension
You'll sleep well tonight.
was released from my body. In fact, this is how coordinated and calculated things are at the White House these days. Post the Zelensky-Trump meeting, they meet the jackals. And one of the jackals, who starts asking Zelensky a question, notes and compliments him on the suit that he's wearing, reminding Zelensky that I'm the guy who asked you last time why you won't wear a suit to these meetings. And Zelensky, who's stuck, he's got to engage. He's got to go with the flow. There's too much at stake for him to get too worked up over that kind of question. Played it brilliantly. Smiled, said yes, pointed back at the guy and said, yes, I remember. In fact, I believe you're wearing the same suit that you wore the last time when you asked me that question, which was a brilliant comeback that may have been lost on that other person. I'm not exactly sure. But maybe this will lead to a greater chance of resolution, because now allegedly they're all meeting. Right now, the European leaders are in with Trump and Zelensky, and they're going to try to get to the bottom of it. The only positivity beyond finally convincing him to put a suit on, him being Zelensky, is that how do I describe the Trump stooges, the Trump media stooges, the Trump lickspittles, who now have they got front row treatment, right? They've been added to the list. They're there for one purpose, to set up Donald J. Trump with a hanging curveball question so he can hit it out of the park, or to, basically agitate, in this case, Zelensky. They gave Trump a chance to go back down the road of, I think the question was very specific, Mr. President, you've talked about who has the cards in this case before. Who do you think holds the cards now? Wanting him to say what he said before, to look at Zelensky and say, you got no cards. You got no cards. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're thinking, but you have no negotiating power here. And he didn't bite. So that makes Dr. Dan a little hopeful that maybe there's going to be a greater seriousness to actually negotiating something and getting something done. He had several opportunities to do it. He's been far more affable with Zelensky, at least publicly, than he was last time. Remember? Because it was like open warfare between him and the VP.
It was tense, ungrateful, no suit.
Maybe having the Europeans around, does that matter? I don't know. In the end, I still not sure how. I don't think there's any way you really trust Putin, but we'll see how it goes. But the most important thing, like I said, that I don't want you to, if you take one thing out of this segment, it is that we can all sleep better tonight because Zelensky got a suit and he wore it. Now, I'm wondering where he got it. I'm wondering if it was special ordered for him. Did he get it off the rack? And have you seen images of him in the suit?
I've seen images of him today, but I'll be honest, I didn't look at the suit.
I don't think he was wearing a tie, but I'm not sure, come to think of it. But it didn't look like a conventional suit, but it was definitely dressier than the T-shirt he wore. Now, apparently later, one of the senators mocked him because when he met with them, he must have been back to the T-shirt. He must have, I don't know, maybe, if you're not used to wearing a suit, a lot of times you're not comfortable with that. And you go, God, I don't like this around my neck.
Right. Yeah, no tie.
No tie, okay.
But he's got the shirt buttoned all the way up.
Buttoned all the way up, yeah, which I thought was a really handsome look. But it must have driven him crazy because when he was meeting with some senators later, I think, unless this was an old photo, he was back to the black T-shirt, and he got mocked for it again. We're continually obsessed, not with the war, not with all the dead, not with the circumstances of the despot Putin being 100% responsible for this madness. We're bothered by the fact that because Putin wears a suit. Got to give him credit.
Yeah, it's true.
He wears a suit. Wears a Western suit. I don't know what problem we could have with him.
Usually, I'll defend Vladimir. When we do TV on Friday, we wear our suit coats and our dress shirts. And then the second that it's time for radio, which is immediately after our last picture, we both change almost immediately, right?
I'm embarrassed to say that's true. I am embarrassed because you're 100% right. But there's a part of me that is embarrassed by that. I'm not speaking for you. I'm speaking for me. That why am I like that? Why do I have to immediately get back to the hoodie? My God, would it really hurt for me to walk in to these studios and all it is a dressier shirt,
yes,
with a collar and a sport coat.
That's all we wear.
It's not even a tuxedo.
Nope, not even a full suit.
It's not even a full suit.
We wear jeans and our shoes, basically.
Exactly right.
But I'm basically equating the radio to the senators. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
TV,
that's true.
Trump.
Yeah, we'll give it to him.
Radio, senators. Dress down, buddy.
Is this live or is this? Oh, no, these are tapes earlier. I thought it looked like it was another presser involving Zelensky and some of the Europeans as well. I like the look.
He looks good.
I think he looks good in it. I really do.
He's a fit man.
And with Trump, is it always the dark, kind of the royal blue suit, and generally isn't the tie always that, what do you call that, orangish red? The tie that he's in this photo right now. You see it?
Oh, yeah.
Is that like orange red?
That's kind of like the American power suit.
Isn't that the tie color, and isn't that the suit coat color a lot of the time with Trump?
I think so.
Yeah.
And the tie goes well below the belt.
And may I also add the touches. The little touch, people always talk about homes and what separates, classy homes from ones perhaps not so much. It's the touches.
The details.
And it's the details. And the details now in the Oval Office, whatever room that he does these press conferences in, magnificent. As far as I can tell, every touch is gold lacquer. Everything is gold. Have you noticed it?
I have not, no.
The fireplace, now there's like some sort of a fixture thing in front of it that's all gold. There's gold everywhere. There's apparently, that's been the big change. I guess he likes gold.
Gold's nice.
Gold's nice. And it's really, the touches are magnificent. No question about that. Are we going to get Peter Bercich on the other side of this break? That's the question of the day. We'll find out. We hope so, because we want to talk Vikings with him. That's next. We found him?
We got him.
Praise the Lord.
I talked to him. Let's see if we punch him up, if he's still there.
Well, it's possible. Is he around PA right now?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. So PA can't be holding him up at the vestibule?
I don't think so.
Peter Bercich now joining us via the Connecticut Water Systems Hotline. Is it really you?
Yes, unfortunately it is.
Good to have you.
Good to be back. I apologize for the last mix-up.
That's okay. We got over it.
Completely my fault.
We've milked it.
And I'm honored. I'm lucky to get a second chance. I know, I know a lot of people don't.
This is it. This is it now.
So I'm lucky.
Doesn't go good today. Who's to say where it goes from here? Here's your toss-up question. Are you still... I loved you were on Fox 9 last night. I loved your venom. You're bitter with Mike Vrabel, are you not?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say bitter. I just don't understand kind of it's kind of like a short-term versus long-term type scenario, right? I understand if he's not happy with Wednesday and Thursday, go ahead and put the starters in and let them know that they need to perform at a certain level or else things will happen. I mean, it's one of the things that Denny, did with us is when we won, we didn't wear pads as much the week, afterwards. And that meant as much as anything, to us as players. I mean, they don't want to get out. They don't want to be on the field any more than they have to before the season starts. And then the other part of it too is all the blitzing that's going on in these preseason games. I mean, I don't know. It just seems to me you want to keep those guys in situations that they can handle mentally and see if they can play, not if they can handle a big playbook. It gives an advantage to experienced players, and it kind of handicaps some of the younger guys who haven't played in the NFL before. So I don't know. I mean, it's a competitive business, right? It's a competitive deal. And, I just don't quite get it in that regard.
Well, here's the comeback from Paul. Teams have the right to play who they want. If you don't like it, tell your second stringers to be better. Sack up. Don't complain. Now, I will say, here's an example I'll give you. For whatever reason, the Bears decided to not play any starters their first preseason game. They decided to make their second preseason game the one where, okay, we're going to put them out there, including the QB, at least for throughout the first quarter and see what we have. And it is true that different coaches, some of this is just, it does make for uneven situations that make it harder to evaluate. I grant that. But teams, it is true, some coaches, for whatever reason, are on a certain, timeline where they go, we're going to make the first game the one that matters. Or in some cases, they're going to say, we're going to make the second game that matters. And, I don't know what you do about that. There's not much you can do, can you? I mean, it's just the nature of how different teams run their programs.
True. Yeah, there's really not much you can do about that. And sometimes maybe they want to coordinate with a home game or their first preseason home game. Yep. I mean, who knows? But the bottom line is this, and PA's right, is if you're a 2 and want to be a 1, well, now here's your chance. Here's your chance to go out there against the 1s and show everybody what you can do.
Right.
So there's opportunity in all of it. But it does change just the feel of the game and just kind of the execution of the game. And, from the Texans game to the New England game, it just, you can, on the surface, it may look like this team has taken a step back. However, if you saw Wednesday and Thursday, you realize, everything's still moving forward. It's just too bad to end a weekend or a week of really good work on kind of a sour note in that regard. But Kevin O'Connell said it earlier, just, there were a lot of penalties. There were a lot of other things too that led to how that thing ended up.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about this earlier. It's the nature of this business that, it's possible that more Vikings fans are going to come away slightly discouraged by the week because guess what? The only thing that was on TV start to finish was the game. Same with the Bears last night. It's the games, and we constantly tell people, don't pay attention. It doesn't matter. It's 3s versus 1s or 2s versus 1s, and it makes no difference. But as long as we keep putting them on TV and have the announcers have to fill time, you're still, I think, prisoner to the possibility that some people are going to draw some unfortunate conclusions. That's the nature of it, isn't it?
Especially with think about it, and the Bears, too. I mean, they haven't had a 4,000-yard passer.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And to see Caleb Williams go up and down on Buffalo and throwing the ball to the tight ends and all. I mean, it couldn't have been scripted any better to give Bear fans a shot in the arm. And you know what? It's important. I mean, for Ben Johnson to say, hey,
yes,
that Monday night game, I need this crowd as rowdy and wild as it's ever been. That game last night kind of, I think, went a good distance towards that. Bear fans are fired up. So
yeah, that's fair.
You know, is it that? Can it be calculated to that nth degree? I don't know. But it's what else are you going to do? It's preseason. You can read between lines. That's what we do.
So after the game, the head coach was pretty. I'm talking about KOC. Was pretty honest, basically about saying, well, there's a reason we're playing a bunch of quarterbacks. We haven't resolved who's going to be the backup QB. They obviously intend Howell to be that guy. He had a good week the first week, a miserable week 2. So, we can obsess over the wrong things because in the end, what McCarthy does is going to, tell this tale of this season as long as he stays healthy. But backups matter. We got to pay attention to that sort of thing. Is it possible that the Vikings' number 2 quarterback is not even on the roster right now, or is that an overreaction to the way Howell played last week?
No, I don't think it would have been in response to necessarily how he played on Saturday. Would they go get someone? I think if there was somebody that got released and was out there that they had their eye on and they liked, I think that that's a possibility. Unlikely, probably very unlikely, but it could happen. You know what I mean? You never know. I've said that Howell will probably be our backup for a while now, and mainly because of just the experience that he brings. I mean, I guess allude to the Bears again last year. They had 2 inexperienced quarterbacks in the quarterback room every single week in the meeting rooms. And, so now they've brought in some veterans and they're going to probably have a mix going into the season just so, Case Keenum they brought in just to have a 37-year-old and older in the room. So whatever happens, it'll probably be somebody. It would be somebody experienced, but I see that as being highly unlikely.
Let's talk a little bit about the obvious wide receiver issue, at least for the first month or the first 3 weeks of the season. I feel like what I hear from people who've been out at camp much more often than I have is that Addison has been one of the best stories, that he has played really, really well, and we know we're not going to have him for the first 3 weeks. So we know Jefferson will be back and the number 1 receiver, and we know what he's capable of doing. But are you concerned about who the second guy would be? I know we got tight ends that we can throw the ball to. We got running backs we can throw the ball to, but where are you on who steps up or who potentially might step up to at least be a solid contributor while Addison is sitting?
You mentioned the tight end positions. That's absolutely where some of that's going to have to come from, and that's T.J. Hawkinson. He had close to 100 receptions 2 years ago, so he's going to have to get back to that level. Jalen Naylor, he's going to have a lot of pressure on him. He started quickly last year, so hopefully that'll happen again. And then for Ty Felton, he's getting an absolute golden opportunity as a draft pick to be able to get out on the field early and do some things. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, Lucky Jackson, Ja'Shawn Jones, losing Rondale Moore, that's where that stings a little bit more because at least you have the experience, or you have someone who is experienced. be out there. If the Vikings make a move to bring in a veteran, I would think it would be this position group at some point once the cuts are done. But the Miles Price has really stood out to me too, but maybe not necessarily for just a wide receiver position, but with everything else that he's done.
Yep.
I like that kid a lot.
Yeah. In fact, I think we're going to talk about the third quarter and the comments from the head coach when he was mic'd up that, I mean, he gave a lot of good clues that on Price, they basically say, hey, if we can get him to be sure he can catch the ball on punts, right, then we think the rest is gravy, which to me is him saying, this is the guy we want to take the job, right? I certainly got that impression from what he said to you guys during the broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, we've been hovering in the 30s, if I'm not mistaken, the last 2 years on punt returns. So our punt return team has not, scared anyone over the last couple of years. But, Miles Price, he had, over 3,000 some yards at the University of Indiana, a place that you love. You're beholden to. You're a big Indiana fan. I know that.
No question.
So you're probably pretty road on everything he's done. But you have to have a lot of trust in your punt returner. That's why Marcus Sherrills did it for so many years. He just when to fair catch it, when to let it hit the ground. I mean, it's a tough spot, and you can't make a mistake, right? You make a mistake, you're turning the football over in the opposite end of the field, which could be disastrous. So, Price, he's got the experience from college. He works hard enough, so hopefully, I mean, that's the main thing. It's just have someone back there that, could catch the football, make good decisions. The return part of it's kind of gravy. But yeah, it's been kind of a thorn in our side, so to speak, or an area of improvement now for a couple of seasons. So hopefully, Miles Price and Felton maybe on kickoff returns, those two can give us a little shot in the arm. Let
me ask you a ground game question. You and I have talked about this a lot the last year or two, and we've had more proclamations from the head coach and quite frankly, changes to the offensive line that indicate a belief that especially with a young quarterback, we are going to commit in a more serious and sophisticated way to running the ball. It's going to be an option in the red zone. It has to be an option, etc. So then we get to the second preseason game. Again, second half, I don't know if it's third stringers against fourth, whatever it is. It's players many of whom are not going to play. The Vikings have a start on after the long Price return. It's a first and goal, I think, at the 8. And I'm thinking to myself, let's see if we can run a little bit. It's with Brosmer. We line up in the shotgun on all 3 plays, and we pass the ball on all 3 plays. And I get it. It's not your main running backs. It's not your main line. But Pete, I'm thinking, this is the time, no matter who's out there, to say, with nothing to lose, because it's a preseason game, let's hand the ball off a couple times. Let's see what the hell might happen. So am I overreacting to that, or did you muse? Because there were 2 or 3 periods in that game where I go, hand the ball off. If this is going to be part of what you want to do, let's just see what might happen.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it and say that they're seriously evaluating Brosmer.
Yeah, fair.
And they really, really want to see what that kid can do, so they're putting him in a really tough spot.
Right.
And they're going to see how he's going to react. And in that case, he threw a ball that should have been a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. If that was that same drive,
that's a different drive. But yeah, I know.
Yeah, different drive.
Late in the game is the one they could have. Yeah, they would have been within 2 with a chance to tie it on a 2-point conversion.
Right, and so in that regard, that might have been a little piece of it. I mean, Wes Phillips is calling plays, and Wes likes to run the football.
Yeah,
and so that would make sense to me a little bit more. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to speculate. But if this was a normal regular season game, then I would absolutely bring that up and have part of it. If that's what we're going to do. And I think the interesting part is if our running game can get better. I don't know if our play action game can get any better than it was a year ago, but the more you can run the football, and with a young quarterback, the play action game hopefully will be as good as it was a year ago.
Well, I don't want to turn this into Bears fan line, But it is one of the things I do like about Johnson. When he was a coordinator with Detroit, and you could even see it yesterday, albeit again against backups for Buffalo. They came out throwing on that first drive, but over a period of drives, they ran a lot. And he's one of those guys, I think, who loves to pass, obviously, but I think still gets how if you really want to have a good offense and take some of the pressure off your QB, you've got to be stubborn, even after maybe early dysfunction in the ground game, to stay after it. There's physicality that comes with it. I think all of it is good for a team, and I think it would all seriously be good for the purple, too.
Yeah, and a lot of it's rhythm, too.
Yes.
And you look at defensive linemen, and if you make them defend the run a little bit, then they're not so eager to tee off on a pass rush. And, Ben Johnson's calling card is having the quarterback under center.
Yes.
And then you give the tailback an opportunity to be 8 yards deep and get ahead of steam on a run play if you are going to hand that thing off. And we're under center quite a bit as well. So I think in that regard, our offense,
I hope that happens. Yeah.
What Detroit's been doing is
Pete Bercich? Peter? Pete! Pete back in. Oh, we lost him. Sabotage? More likely, probably just a bad cell line, I'm guessing.
I'm going to call him back. We still have a few minutes.
We do, and we have Johnny Athletic coming up at 5:30. This might be a two done as a society segments program today before we are done. One of them absolutely gobsmacked me last night. The other one almost as much. And as always, we appreciate the texts that continue to come in via the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. And that number continues to be, as we like to call it, 64686. Again, dew point still ridiculous. Now, I think the clouds have parted. Probably we could have, I don't know what time the Vikings ended up practicing today. But we probably could have gotten in a show from there. But we're fine. We still got Peter Bercich, and we hope to get him back, as I said, for a couple quick minutes. And a lot of good texts to review. Some A-section stuff to pay attention to before we wrap things up. Might even get back to the University of Michigan football story, which the producer of this show reintroduced during Top 5 at 5 late last week, and I talked about some on sermons yesterday as well. I think we got Bercich back. Sabotage? What happened? All of a sudden you were gone.
Yeah, it's got to be a Derbschmidt thing. I'm in Wisconsin.
That explains it. That explains it.
It's you say the word Viking too much, then it just cuts you out, I think.
Let me ask you a defensive question here. Former colleague of mine at the Star Tribune, Mark Craig's got an interesting piece regarding the rookie defensive tackle Ingram Dawkins. And he lays out what he says is the sense among Vikings people that they are very intrigued with him, to the point where last week he was spending a lot of time with the first team ahead of Harrison Phillips. Now, I don't know if that means anything in terms of actually once the season begins, but it's not a name that we've talked about a lot on this show. I don't know how much you and PA have talked about him or noticed him. Is he a guy who could actually be a legitimate factor this year? What have you seen and heard?
Yeah, I think so. And I would look at him as more of a replacement for Patrick Jones.
Okay.
Patrick Jones, he was an outside linebacker, but he was big enough to play a 3 or 5 technique. In fact, when we lost Cashman and we played Detroit, and then I remember out in when we played the Rams on Thursday night, Patrick Jones played a lot of 3 technique during that game. He also, had a number of sacks from that position as well throughout the season. So kind of I think they're kind of molding him into that type of a position replacement. He's very, very long, meaning he's very tall, very long-armed, and he's strong. He plays with a lot of leverage. You saw that on film in Georgia. Raw with some of the pass rush techniques. So I think his ability to take on some of these techniques. And truly in the Flores system, the defensive lineman techniques are different. They're a lot different than what you're going to see throughout the league. So, but his ability to pick up those techniques and that feel for the run game quickly is putting him in better and better situations. So Ingram Dawkins might just be a guy that you see on the field a lot more than you would expect. I don't expect him to be starting, but he might be getting quite a few snaps once the season kicks in.
Give me your updated impressions of McCarthy, who, by all accounts, had a really good, especially second day, I think, more than the first day, in the joint practices with New England. And that's also where we get into some funky stuff. New England was, I think, a 4-13 team last year. I know Vrabel's good, and a lot of people think they can make a big jump. But to a certain extent, I would think that's a team you should kind of dominate, coming off the season the Vikings have had. But what did you see? What stood out to you from McCarthy during the practice sessions with New England?
I think getting the football down the field, right? I think that's the only thing that we really didn't see in his first preseason game. And he looked good doing it. Again, he's created a little bit of a rapport with Jordan Addison, which is too bad because we're going to be missing him the first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But just seeing the field, getting the ball, getting some of those more aggressive plays down the field, and then athletic enough to keep things moving along. And I think what Kevin O'Connell said that, is where they wanted him, where they expect him to be, he's a little bit ahead of that. I believe he said that during the third quarter of our game. So, when the quarterback whisperer says that his quarterback's ahead of schedule, then I'll believe him. And I'm pretty excited about it. So here we go. Last
item for you today. I spent a decent amount of the show yesterday talking about the third quarter broadcast, obviously simulcast on the Fan and on Fox 9, Vikings audio and video network, the whole bit. You're there for it. I thought, in all honesty, that for the average football rube, and even, folks who've been in the media, who've been around players a little more or coaches a little bit more, I was fascinated by it, man. I thought KOC was much more open than he was a year ago to letting us in on what happened on a play, what's supposed to happen on a play, what did or didn't happen on a play. For you, it might not have been a big deal because you're a former player and you were a former coach as well. But I loved it. I lapped up all of it. I thought it was it made obviously a meaningless game feel a little bit more important just because of the stuff he's filling in regarding each play and even decision making, etc.
I thought it was fantastic, and the part that blows your mind is just how much is going on within a single play. This is what we're going to do. If we get this, then we're going to do that. If they do this, then we're probably going to get that. And then, but the ability to make all those decisions and reads in real time. And I mean, all that stuff that he's talking about, that has to be almost automatic for all these quarterbacks. That's what they do when they watch film, right? That's all the time that's spent. But this stuff has to be so built in. And then on the deep ball from Brosmer, for him to immediately go right to the fundamental side of it and say, hey, as soon as you get by the DB, get your eyes back on the ball and find the football so you to adjust to it.
Yep.
But there's so many levels, and that's why you love having a coordinator or a head coach that's coached a bunch of different positions because they know every single spot down to the nth degree. And in real time, they can make adjustments. Hearing that piece of advice immediately after that play was more valuable to a wide receiver than to hear it on film the next day. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's immediate feedback.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. I enjoyed listening to him.
Yep.
The whole time too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun for sure. Appreciate the time. Glad we got the phone set up, and we'll talk soon as we get closer to the start of the season. Thanks, man.
All right, Dan. Anytime.
Appreciate you. Pete Bercich, outstanding analysis work from him, as always. The top of the hour break will be followed by a whopper of a done as a society item. That's coming up next.